Thank you. Let's bring in Kaylee McGhee White, Washington Examiner, deputy editor of Restoring America. This is one of those circumstances, Kaylee, where you can't help but feel like there's disparate justice under the law. Let me share, before I get you to weigh in, what South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace has to say about this. It's an interesting take on how it seems like on the one end, if something's happening with Joe Biden, it's a very long, slow, careful process, whereas if it's happening with Donald Trump, it's decided almost immediately. Listen to Nancy Mace.
When we got access to the suspicious activity reports, the day we got access to the SARS reports, Alvin Bragg indicted Trump in New York. The day that we got access to this 1023 form showing bribery between Joe Biden and Hunter Biden in Ukraine, they indict Donald Trump again. Every time the Oversight Committee has evidence of corruption, bribery, money laundering on the Biden family, they indict Donald Trump.
All right, Kaylee, your thoughts. Is Congressman Mace right or wrong on this?
Well, Republicans are right to feel frustrated with this because it is obvious that there are two standards of justice, one for the establishment and another for everyone the establishment doesn't like. Donald Trump is obviously the #1 figure that the establishment doesn't like, and he's been subjected to the Russiagate hoax, 2 impeachments, 2 indictments, and one need not defend Trump's behavior, especially in this particular indictment that just was released, in order to point this out. The fact is that Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden have been accused of similar crimes. Joe Biden stored documents in his garage improperly. Hillary Clinton used BleachBit to hide the fact that she was illegally using a private email server to send classified information around. These are the exact same crimes, and yet Trump is the only one who has to go to a courthouse to answer for them. So it is selective prosecution in this case.
Meantime, a new ABC News poll shows a plurality of people who believe that the former president should have been charged with a crime. Let me show you that. The number is a bit of a surprise for some. 48% say yes, he should have been charged with a crime. But there's a second part of this I think you'll find instructive, Kaylee. That very same poll also shows a plurality that is, think the charges are in fact politically motivated. Does that make sense to you?
It does, because Trump himself is such a divisive figure, and he does tend to bring out emotions in people. So a lot of the people who hate Donald Trump are going to say, yes, he should answer for these things. And yet a lot of people are also going to admit that the prosecution of him is in fact political. And the fact is that, you know, the James Comey standard that was set back during when Hillary Clinton was accused of very similar crimes, he set the standard that she could get away with this and that she could go without facing any charges or any prosecution. So that's the question, is are we going to apply that same James Comey standard to Donald Trump, or are we going to now decide to enforce the law? This is the problem, is when you decide that the law is unimportant enough to set aside for one political figure, you have to keep that same standard moving forward. And so this is going to be a really tricky thing for the Biden Justice Department, which has already been accused of politicizing justice and multiple investigations, including the investigation into Joe Biden, including the investigation into Hunter Biden.
Gotcha.
So whether or not they're going to be able to handle this one is important moving forward.
Okay, I've got about 10 seconds. I just want to get your thoughts very quickly. The administration celebrating Pride Month in the LGBTQ plus community with a display at the White House. I want to show it for the folks at home. They're being accused of violating the U.S. flag code over a Pride Month display. Basically, this display has the Pride flag in the middle of it. Anyone who knows the law knows that you have to have the American flag in the middle in a circumstance like that, and it's to be elevated. Your quick thoughts on that before we go.
Yeah, you know, it might seem like just a tasteless violation of flag etiquette here, but the message that the Biden administration is sending is pretty clear. This ideology runs America. It's the new state religion. And a lot of Americans see this and are offended by it, not because they oppose equal rights, not because they oppose, you know, love who you love. It's because they see this flag and they see the destruction of women's sports and women's private spaces, the indoctrination of their children, the politicization of the medical community. This is what happens. In California, just this week, California Democrats are trying to pass a law that would criminalize parents who refuse to use their children's preferred pronouns. This is where that flag leads to, and a lot of Americans see that and recognize that.
Kaylee McGhee White, Washington Examiner. Kaylee McGhee White, thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. We'll have you back. Thanks again.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.